Hey team, Mike, Oldfellas Travels. Well, I did say that I was going to do a video, or a review more correctly, on what I carry when I'm out scrub. When I'm prospecting for safety reasons and for my own protection and my opportunity to have an emergency recovery if so be it. So this is my opinion. The only influence maybe I've had from other people is the fact that they've got the device and I think it works pretty well, and I decided that it was probably something that works for me. Disclaimer, I certainly haven't had discounts or been given any of these devices to test or been influenced in any way on giving them a good review. It's purely my review on the usage over this prospecting year, and I'll be very honest and tell you exactly what I think of them, and based on the fact that I'll be continuing next year with the same few bits of kit, that probably already tells you that I'm pretty happy with how they work. So let's get started. I'll go through them maybe in a list of what I see as priorities for me, or I'll do the best I can to do that anyway. So here we have the old Joe Blake snakebite kit. You know, I think this is imperative. They're really not that expensive, I don't think, considering what they are. They're quite a good kit. You know, they carry you know, a splint to isolate, they have bandages and such things. Bandages that actually have a marker on them will tell you when you've got the correct pressure, which is really, really important, because you're not trying to stop blood flow, as what used to be popular belief, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to limit the amount of transitional fluid that moves through the lymphatic system, because that's how a majority of snake venoms work. They actually travel through the lymphatic system and work their way through the body. So consequently, the more movement you have, the more muscle activity you have, it encourages the movement of that, and you want to restrict that as much as possible. Without this, you've got no way of restricting it. Probably the only thing you can do is keep your limb as low as possible, maybe make it very, very cool and inactive to try and slow down the transition, you know, through the lymph nodes or lymph glands, whatever they're called. I'm certainly no medical physician, but without one of these, I don't know, what are you thinking? Blackadder, lots and lots of pain for 20 minutes before you're dead. At least with this, if you address the situation soon enough and apply it correctly with the correct pressure, it's going to give you quite a bit of time. And I have no doubt that, I'm not sure how long, you know, sometimes I hear that it'll give you 12 hours, but I'm not going to claim how long, because it's all dependent on how well it's applied, how soon it's applied, and how closely you follow the procedures for using a snakebite kit such as this. And one goes on my bum pack, and so I've got one of these wherever I go. I wouldn't walk away from the vehicle without one. So very important. But it's not much good having one of these, really, to be quite honest, if nobody knows where you are. And even if you've told somebody where you are and you've moved location a bit, it's going to be very difficult to find you, especially out on the goldfields. Consequently, I always wear this sort of gear when I'm out in the goldfields. You know, I hear people say that, oh, I don't like to wear them, I don't like to be seen. Well, if something happens, I want to be seen, you know. I want to make sure that I'm easily spotted, especially if it's getting dark. So that's my snakebite kit. I've had that from day one, basically. Even back in the days where you used to wear gaiters all the time, but I don't do that so much now. I suppose the next device is not so much for prospecting, it's probably for everything, but this is a GME emergency beacon. I think originally these were probably designed around the likes of, you know, boaters, people out in boats that don't have a radio or whatever, you know. So it's a one-option tool. You pop the antenna out, you set the beacon off, and it'll send a GPS emergency pulse out for your emergency recovery. And that's what it will do. Set this off, it will be an emergency recovery, or consider an emergency recovery. Emergency recovery, get medical attention, get somebody to hospital as quick as you possibly can. No ifs or buts on whether it's going to be a chopper flight or just a, you know, a police vehicle driving out to where you are. So in view of that, I don't use this when I'm walking around prospecting. This stays in the vehicle. I have it mounted up in the console in the front above the driver's seat, secured, so hopefully if things go pear-shaped and, you know, I end up on my lid, or the like, it'll still be there, and if I'm unable to get out of the vehicle, I'll still be able to get to it and set it off. So they're relatively cheap. You register them. They warrant for a 7-year battery, I think. Oh, I'm not sure if the battery's replaceable. I think they are, but basically they just hit the button and emergency services will go into action and get out to you for a rescue as soon as possible. So the next thing we'll talk about is GPS. We all use Trilobite on pretty well. That might be wrong, but as far as I know, everyone I've spoken to that's a prospector, even just part-time prospector, generally uses Trilobite. It's sort of a must-have these days if you're going to stay legal with leases and you know, try and identify where you found the gold and such. But I don't depend on that 100%. Now, I do set my location on the Trilobite when I've parked with the vehicle. I do turn it on to track me, and I do use it as a guide to where I've been and where the vehicle's located. But I don't depend on it 100% because I have, on at least 2 occasions, found that when I've hit the marker to mark my current location, for whatever reason, it's been up to 300 or 400 metres out. Now, in hundreds of uses, that might be as many as 5 times it's happened, but it has happened. Which means if you're relying on that only, Trilobite to guide you back the vehicle, and that happens, you're probably going to be lost. It's probably going to help you get lost much quicker than what you would without any guidance. The other things, of course, is it's marked the wrong location. If you forget to mark your location where your vehicle is, you haven't got it. If you forget to turn on tracking, you've got no way of knowing back to where you go. And I do often experiment and decide when I've finished I'm going to head back to the vehicle to try and find my way back to the vehicle on my own, using such things as the sun was on my left cheek when I went out, it needs to be on my right cheek when I come back, and such things. But that doesn't give you control to a good enough degree over lateral location, which is to say I might know my direction back to the vehicle, but if I'm 200 metres over that way, and this is what has happened, you know, when I've been trying it, I've walked past a vehicle and I'll be thinking, geez, it looks about where I was, and when I check on the GPS, I'll find I've gone past the vehicle by 500 metres, and consequently at that point I really didn't have much idea where I was. So Trilobite, yes. Do I use it to find my way back and where I am in that? Absolutely, you know, like it's a fantastic piece of tool and it gives you so much information. But is it my 100% reliable device to get me back to my vehicle in safety? No, it's not. That's where the GPS comes in. So if I had have known then what I know now, I would have bought, you can buy a really cheap Garmin, I think it's InReach. They're not very much at all, GPS, which works perfectly well as a way to identify where you are, to track where you're going, and to identify where your start point is. When I started looking at these, I thought I'd use a lot more of the features, and I noticed, you know, I follow Chrissy and Outback Gold Adventures or something, but I follow Chrissy, and Chrissy uses her GPS a lot to mark where she's found gold. I did try that initially, but it tends to use a lot of power, and the end result is you've got to make sure that you've got spare batteries, which I do carry, but you also got to make sure that you've got sufficient batteries in it when you head out. So I've chosen to use it as such, and I could have gone for a much cheaper device. I mean, it's got pretty maps on it, it's got colour, it's got you know, all sorts of information, weather, etc, etc. But I don't use any of that really. But what I do use it for is when I stop the vehicle, this is within reach always, I turn it on, I'll wait for it to settle down and knows its position. I'll get out of the vehicle, take a little walk to make sure it is tracking and it has got good GPS reception. Then I'll mark where the vehicle is. Once I'm happy with I've marked where the vehicle is, I'll turn it off. That'll go in my bum pack and that's where it'll stay. And consequently, over many users, I've found that there was a bug in these, but I've done an update where sometimes it wouldn't save the location. But over uses, now I've learned to identify when the location is definitely saved, and when I turn it back on, it's always there for me to travel back. Have I had to use that? Yes, I have. There's been occasion, I don't know how many, but there has been occasion where I've had to turn this on to use it to get me back to the vehicle. One occasion was when it was a very, very hot day. My phone overheated and I wanted to go back. I was getting quite hot and I was out of water and I needed to head back to the vehicle because I was going to get thirsty. And my phone had overheated, and so my phone didn't work. And rather than sit around trying to wait for the phone to cool down, not knowing how long it would take to cool down, I just simply pull this out, turn it on, arcs up, hold it, and it points me within a metre of the direction I need to go. They're really, really good, and it's never let me down. Touch wood, by the way. But they are a good device, and Garmin's quite good, I believe. I like the Garmin gear, and having said that, I think that Garmin would have to be pretty 150% certain that this was going to work for what it's meant for. Because it could be a very dangerous situation if these were buggy and people getting lost even though they had one. But I swear by it, I won't go without it. I carry spare batteries and I turn it off and just use Trilobite as long as it's working well for my way back to the vehicle. If things look a bit wrong, I'll arc that up and double check and use this to find my way back to the vehicle. Don't leave home without it. Radio, of course, is very important to have a radio. Some people don't carry them. I've known a few people that don't carry them, or a few people that go out in a pair and only one carries them, but essentially, I don't know whether it's such an emergency tool. When I'm on my own, I set it on scan, so I will know if there's anyone around. And maybe get a feel for what's going on. But mostly I use this for talking to, one of my mates that, is within radio distance. And this is the 5-watt GME. It's the robust one, so basically metal case and waterproof, dustproof or whatever. I felt it essential to spend the money on it, but I did get this cheap. I bought it at one of the 4x4 shows. It's about 3 years old now. It's been very good, very reliable, very clear, easy to use, and it's a must-have. As far as I'm concerned, when my mate's had enough, and he's going to head home, I want to know that. So he's just copying me on the radio, let me know what's going on, and if I feel the same, I'll head off as well and we'll catch back up on the road. So you don't have to spend a fortune, guys. I mean, I suppose I'm a bit fortunate to be in a situation where, I can throw a few extra bob at those things. I'm certainly not rich, but I'm certainly not scraping the barrel either. Mind you, this year's been a bit tight. But it's been a great year for gold. And a lot of people have said that, but next year will be a good year and we'll make it up then, eh? Okay, what haven't we spoke about? Oh, my favourite device. So I've left it to last. I suppose a lot of people would have heard about these. A lot of you guys would have heard about these Zolios. I think they're kind of new. I don't know how long they've been about. They could have been, might have been about longer than my feel is I think maybe only 2 or 3 years. But my friend had one, and I've got to tell you what sold me on it before I go into too much discussion about it was we're at Nullagine, very, very bad weather. Wind was blowing a gale, Willy was going through. My awning decided to make its own way home. Ripped a couple of stakes out of the ground, broke a couple of poles, and the awning started to collapse and was at the verge of, it wasn't long before I was going to be flapping around and like an iron chain on a whip and start doing some damage to whatever lay about. So my mate had one of these and his wife simply texted him and said, tell Mike, she texted him and said, if Mike's around, tell him he should probably come back to camp. His awning's about to let go. And my mate grabbed me. And my mate grabbed me and said, the shit's going down at home, you better go. So I jumped in my vehicle and headed back, and sure enough, by the time I get back there, the awning was pretty much destroyed. It was flapping around, close to, going all over the shop, and I managed to get back in time to get cable ties around it and get it back up on the side of the camper. Consequently, I spent the next 6 months with their awning, which was very ordinary. So that brings me to a discussion on why I love this device so much. It runs forever on one charge, although I do charge it every day, apart from the days that I forget, but it'll run for a few days anyway. It has one feature which I believe is probably the key feature that a lot of people might buy this for, and that is the fact that it has basically a mobile number assigned to it, which means, albeit this is used as satellite, but what it means is somebody that's got Telstra reception can send a text message and to the number that's assigned to this, which is basically a mobile number, There is a charge. I think it's 12 cents per message after your first 20 on the plan I'm on, so I get 20 messages I think either way. So 20 messages and all, inbound and outbound, are included in that count, only because I'm planning on. If you want to pay a few more dollars, you can go unlimited, but we just decide to use it only when contact is absolutely necessary and or when there's an emergency. But the great thing about this is, if something's going on and your mate's got one and for whatever reason he needs to contact you, maybe it's a very minor emergency, you know, he's staked 2 tyres and now he's stuck and he can't get you via phone because there's no phone reception, he can't get you via radio because you're on the other side of a hill or too far away. He can use this via an application on his phone to send a message to me and say, Mike, I need you to come and give me a hand, mate. I've done 2 tyres and, I'm stuck. And I'll get that message, I'll open it on the phone, I can reply to that message if I so wish. But the key is that within that message, not only does it give you a description of what's going on, it gives you the exact location of where I need to go. Now it's also got some other features. It has predetermined messages. You can configure, don't quote me on this, I'm not quite sure, but I configured for 3 points of contact. One's a daughter, one's me mate, one's my sister. So there's a button here with a pre-configured message that I can just press that button, and generally I've got that set. This is where I am at the moment, all's good, I'm just prospecting. But what that does do, it ensures that my sister, my mate, who will be out there prospecting as well, and my daughter and one of my daughters knows where I am at that time, and that it's all good. Often I'll get a call from my daughter, overnight and say, I've been trying to ring you today, I've been a bit worried about it, I had a feeling that, I might have needed to contact you and make sure you're okay. See, now they can. They can just send a text to that predefined number in here, which is basically like a mobile number. It'll go through the Telstra services with this Telstra coverage. It'll go to the satellite. It'll come back down the satellite to this device. This device, paired with your phone, will give you a notification there's a message and a flashing light as well. And you simply open up the app and basically your text message capabilities. The other good thing is it is an emergency beacon. If it's an absolute emergency, you've got the SOS button, which means it's an emergency, I need assistance, whether it be medical or whatever, as soon as possible. It is a situation that could end, with death. And that SOS function works the same as any absolute emergency service. Emergency services contact her, they get a location, but once again, you can actually identify via SMS message the level of emergency it is. So if I sprain my ankle and can't get back to my vehicle, it's an emergency, yeah? If I can't get hold of my mate to come and get me, it's an emergency. But I can tell emergency services what the emergency is. And so they know we don't need to dispatch a chopper. We don't need to go into, emergency search to find this fella. Because if we don't, it's going to be a very sad ending. We just need to notify the local police and get him in their full drive and go out and find him and just help him get himself sorted, and then it's all good to go. So it is one of my favourites, and I will never leave home without it. I also have it current in the vehicle. It's always available to me, and I think it's worth its weight in gold. I highly recommend one for the emergency purposes, especially someone like myself. I'm 67 years old. I often am on my own, or certainly, a couple of kilometres away from the nearest mate, and sometimes on my own completely, on the odd occasion. And this gives me confidence that if things go pear-shaped, it's a very easy way to get emergency service to me, or to get some assistance if it's not an emergency, but I do need some form of recovery or some form of assistance. So Zoleo, guys, I really recommend this. I think it's a great device. Remember, I'm not associated with any of these organisations in any way. I've done my own research and made my own decisions, along with some advice from people that have got one of these devices, and decided that was the go for me. And now I've run with them for at least 6 months. A couple of those devices is 3 years old, and I'm very happy with them. I'll continue to use them, and if anybody asks me what do I recommend, it'll certainly be one of those devices. That's my take on how I prospect and how I like to do things. I'll reiterate, I've probably spent, look, there could be $1,500 worth of stuff there, maybe a little bit more. I really can't remember what I paid for it, but I know most of it wasn't what I'd call cheap. But I got to tell you, I haven't need to use it, but if we ever do need to use it, I'll probably be happy to pay 3 times as much, because there's nothing worse than that feeling you have if you're in a situation, and I've been there when I was lost once and I found my way back. But it's a terrible feeling, guys, and if you feel it's helpless and you've got no way of calling help, you can feel pretty dismal, and you can make some very bad decisions too, by the way, if you can't hold down that panic that it's going to get dark and you're going to be spending a cold night in the bush. I hope you've got something out of it. I hope you've taken some of it on board. And, you know, please, guys, please don't take that, you know, don't make that mistake of wandering off from your vehicle without, you know, a snake bite kit, or at least some way of getting in touch with an emergency contact to get you out of there quick smart if things go pear-shaped. That's how people die in the bush, you know. Prospectors are still dying out there because they've been caught in the wrong situation and they haven't been able to get the emergency services contact quickly enough, and very sadly it doesn't end well. So after all that doom and gloom, that's pretty much how I work, guys, and I'll be working that way for, unless I think there's something better that I'll come across in the meantime, but I'll be working that way for at least the next year, and longer if the devices continue to run, because they're a bit of an expense investment, but it's a must-have as far as I'm concerned, and I'll continue to use them. So I hope you enjoyed that bit of review, guys. It wasn't an ideal spot to do it. I'm doing a bit of pet babysitting at the moment for my sister, so I'm doing this pretty much in the backyard, as you might have taken notice of. But I did tell you I'd have a video out on Wednesday on the review of what I use in the bush. So there's more to come, not all reviews, and not all be reviews. There won't be much prospecting, obviously, over the next couple of months, because I'm not in the goldfields now. I'm having a bit of a holiday and going to enjoy myself right up until end of January. But there'll be other interesting stuff to talk about, and I have a lot of things that I've used and a lot of items that are worthwhile reviewing. And even if you get one thing out of one of the reviews, you know, it's worthwhile just having a watch, because generally they won't be very long, I don't imagine, although I do tend to rabbit on a bit. So, we're done and dusted. I've spoken enough. It's the old fella signing off. Adios amigo, which means goodbye. Anyway, I'm off, guys. So that's about it. You know what time it is now. It's beer time. See ya.